After years of service in the United States military, Henry has finally made his way back to Hong Kong. In order to begin a career in education, he returns to the secondary school where he previously studied. Tak Chi, the principal brings up the fact that he does not have any prior experience in the classroom. However, he is hired after a letter of recommendation written by a higher-ranking official is presented to the hiring manager. Before Henry leaves the school, the principal tells him that the class he has been assigned to teach is the most difficult one in the entire institution. Henry walks into the classroom on the first day of school and is shocked to see that it is in a state of complete and utter disarray. While some of the students are sleeping, others are singing, others are playing video games, and still others are cooking ramen on a portable stove. There are a good number of students doing the latter. Even after the teacher has entered the room, they continued doing what they were doing without paying any attention to him. Henry makes an effort to get their attention, but they act as if they are oblivious to him. He stops attempting to divert their attention and instead walks around the classroom making observations and comments about the activities they are already engaged in. Because of the high amount of sodium that is contained in ramen, the students who are learning how to cook are being asked to consume less of it. After that, Henry goes up to a guy named Zufa who is playing the ukulele and offers to assist him. In a similar vein, he cautions a youngster who is obsessed with video games about the radiation exposure that can result from staring at a screen for long periods of time. When the students are finally paying attention to him, he takes the opportunity to introduce himself before writing his name and phone number on the board. The students make fun of his handwriting because it is difficult to read. Henry laughs it off when one of the other students calls him and asks him to leave the class, even though the other student has asked him to do so. Once more, the children pay him no attention and carry on with the activities they were participating in prior to his arrival. Henry had finally had enough of the situation, so he pulled the fire sprinkler in the room using a rubber band and some chalk. The students dispersed themselves quickly in order to protect themselves from getting wet. He is finally successful in getting their undivided attention and then warmly greets them as they enter his class. Following the end of the school day, the 5 students with the lowest class standings congregate in the sports supply room to smoke. Jack, the leader of the group, is secretly smitten with a student in another class who has an excellent grade point average. When the others see him looking at a picture of her, they laugh at him and make fun of him. The wealthy and privileged children who play basketball for the school have become the target of this group's hostility. They make fun of Jack because of his financial situation as they enter the supply room as they always do. After some time has passed, the basketball team is now practicing, and Jack and the rest of the group are spectating from a nearby location. Jack knocks over the leader of the opposing team with a bottle that he spills on the court. The group laughs, but the English teacher at the school, Miss Liang, gives them detention for their behavior. They decide to pull a prank on her and then run away while she is cleaning her desk in order to avoid getting detention. In another part of the building, the principal of the school is upset because the education board is considering deducting 20% of the institution's annual funding. The members of the board come to the school to conduct an investigation into the ways in which the allocated funds are being put to use. Henry walks into the classroom just as the students are getting ready to play a prank on him by placing a bucket of water in front of the door. However, his reflexes are quicker than the falling bucket, and he is able to push it away from him before it hits the ground. The students who had been anticipating making fun of him are now taken aback and speechless. Jack is asked for his pack of cigarettes by Henry, who is aware that Jack is a smoker. Jack doesn't ask any questions. He just hands him the pack and waits to see what he does next. The conversation continues with Henry requesting that Zufa name the 3 components that make up a cigarette. If he gives the right response to the question, he will be excused from class for the rest of the day. Everyone begins pounding on their desks and demanding that they, too, be allowed to skip class. After they have come to a stop, he gives each of them a cigarette and asks them to discuss it. Henry is well aware that he won't be taken seriously if he merely mentions the impact that it has on their health. Therefore, he changes the subject by asking them about the consequences of smoking cigarettes and going on to explain how tar builds up in their lungs. They have never really paid attention to the teacher before, but now they are actually interested in what they are being taught. Once the bell has rung, he asks them to return the cigarettes, and the students comply with his request, albeit reluctantly. In the cafeteria on that particular day, the captain of the basketball team is responsible for causing one of Jack's friends, Bruce, to trip and hurt his leg. This results in a disagreement between the groups, which quickly escalates into a physical altercation. They fight by hurling food and tables at one another, which causes the establishment to be destroyed. After some time has passed, Henry learns that 5 students from his class have been temporarily suspended for being the instigators of the fight. Henry intervenes when he finds Jack engaging in combat with his opponent in the hallway. After being asked to calm down, Jack responded by claiming that the school is unfair because the wealthy children are not subject to any form of discipline. Henry stays after school on that particular day and looks through the files of each of the 5 students in order to learn more about them. The first individual is a man by the name of Zufa. He is the son of a Pakistani immigrant and, as a result, he is frequently subjected to discrimination. The police officers who patrol his neighborhood frequently accuse him of being a thief. The fulfillment of Zufa's one and only goal in life is to work as a musician. Danan is the name of the second student who has enrolled. Since the day she was born, her birth was a letdown for her father, who had hoped to have a son instead of a daughter. Danan has spent her entire life working toward the goal of earning her father's respect. She went as far as cutting her hair short and playing with cars in order to give the impression that she was a boy. Despite this, her father doesn't seem to care about her at all, preferring instead to lavish his attention on her younger brother. Then there are 2 brothers who go by the names Chris and Bruce. When they were still young, their mother left them to be with another man, which led to their father developing an alcohol use disorder. During their formative years, the brothers could only count on each other for support, while Chris toiled away at his job as a grocery store cashier to bring in money for the family. Bruce became obsessed with video games as a means of evading reality. Last but not least, Henry has been unable to unearth any information regarding Jack's ancestry. Jack is seen working as a waiter in the following scene, which takes place in a restaurant. Jianying, a bettor on mixed martial arts, MMA, and his business partners arrive at the restaurant. Jack attempts to steal Jianying's flashy lighter while he is distracted, but he is unsuccessful and is caught. As he checks Jack's identification, the men working for Jianying beat him up. As soon as he learned that the other person was a student, he gave the student some money and offered him a job as their food delivery man. Henry goes to Zufa's house and discovers that Zufa is hiding out after stealing a ticket from his father and the other people who are associated with his father. After learning the reason why he is being pursued, he eventually takes the position of the father and stops helping the man. After that, he and Zufa head over to the bridge to hang out there. Henry joins a band and performs out in the streets in order to inspire Zufa to do whatever it is that Henry desires from Zufa. After only a few seconds, Zufa joins him and sings for the first time in front of people, despite the fact that she was bullied in school many years ago. In the meantime, Bruce and Chris's father arrives home later than usual, as he does every day, and commands his sons to get him a beer from the store. He becomes angry and tells the brothers to leave his house when they continue to refuse. Henry confronts their father the following day and tries to persuade him to check himself and his sons into a treatment facility. In the meantime, Danan's father hands her a makeup kit and tells her to try acting like a girl for a change. He also gives her a bag full of cosmetics. Danan is incensed at him because she always gets the impression from him that she is not good enough. She conceals her younger brother's face with makeup before slipping out of the house with the car key in her hand. She is about to leave in the car that belonged to her father, but Henry intervenes just in time to prevent her from leaving. He warns her that driving without a license is against the law and offers another solution to the problem. After that, they go to a go-kart racetrack and have some fun. In addition to inviting her father, Henry challenges him to a race. During the race, the father and daughter show no mercy to one another and, as a result, both of them end up outside of the track. Danan's go-kart is suddenly struck by a vehicle, but she is able to avoid it and continue racing. Her father sobs in grief over the loss of his daughter, but he is unaware of this fact. Danan embraces him after coming to the conclusion that he does, in fact, love her. The following day at school, Bruce and Chris, along with a group, are instructed to go to a rehabilitation center in order to conduct an interview with an alcoholic who is in the process of recovering. They were taken aback when they discovered that they would need to conduct an interview with their own father. The students are interested in knowing how he got started drinking. The man responds by saying that although he loved his wife very much, she divorced him at the most difficult time in his life. As a result, he started drinking and soon forgot that he had 2 children who needed him to look after them. The man apologizes to Bruce and Chris without letting on that they are his sons, but he does reveal that they are his sons. The event leaves the brothers in an emotional state, and they end up crying. Jack has begun working for the mixed martial arts, MMA, better journeying somewhere else. He makes Jack an offer for a significant sum of money to drug a competitor's drink in the upcoming match. Jack is hesitant about accepting the offer, but he is ultimately forced to do so. Jianying is a supporter of a fighter, but on the day of the fight, she places a wager on the fighter's defeat. Jack tries to cheat the fight by putting drugs in the opponent's drink, but he is discovered red-handed. Before he can point the finger at Jianying, he is attacked physically and confined to a locker. Henry eventually makes it there and inquires of the combatants as to whether or not they have seen his student. The other men ask him to go back to his house, but Jack can be heard calling for assistance from inside the locker. Henry launches an assault on them once he realizes he is being held captive, and he easily dominates their resistance. When the fighters step it up, the action gets a little more intense, but Henry is skilled enough to avoid their attacks. At the very end of it, he scores a knockout victory over their best fighter, who was scheduled to compete in a few minutes. The next scene takes place at the hospital, where Henry is receiving treatment for his injuries sustained in the previous scene. Jack makes several attempts to speak the truth about Jianying but is ultimately silenced. Henry becomes well known as the man who is credited with saving his student by defeating a professional fighter. After the news of the incident is broadcast on television, his popularity at school continues to rise, and as a result, the pupils begin to respect him. In contrast to how they were earlier, they even stand up to give him a warm welcome when he enters the classroom. In a flashback, we see that when Henry was in school, he was known for pulling pranks on his classmates. During an event for parents, he went so far as to throw water balloons at a student who was playing the piano for the audience. After that, he got into a fight with the same student and ended up breaking his hand. Following the fight, he was handed a suspension and ordered to return to the United States. Since that day, the students have paid close attention in class whenever Henry has been teaching and have worked diligently to prepare for the upcoming college entrance exam. Everyone is doing great, with the exception of Bruce, who has developed a dependency on prescription pills. It turns out that Bruce started doing drugs to escape the problem that was plaguing their family, while Chris resorted to playing video games. As a result of his lack of concentration, he receives a very low score on the practice admissions exam. Henry has given him his word that he will assist him, but Bruce's mental state continues to deteriorate. In the end, he decides to commit suicide by jumping off the balcony of their home. He enters a coma after being rushed to the hospital in a critical condition. The news is distorted by the media, and the school and Henry are made to take the blame for what Bruce did. After interviewing Henry, members of the education board come to the conclusion that his license to teach should be revoked. When he starts to pack his things and walk out of the school, the students follow behind him and beg him not to leave. They are devastated by his absence, but they are aware that in order to make him proud, they need to do exceptionally well on the upcoming test. Since that day, they have increased their level of effort significantly in order to demonstrate to the administration that Henry is an effective educator. On the day of the exam, Jack and all of his classmates receive a text message from Henry asking them to meet in the school an hour before the test. Henry's message instructs them to bring their textbooks. When the students come together, they discover that Jianying's plan to keep them confined in the school so that they won't be able to make it to the examination hall in time was a trick on her part. He intends to teach Henry a lesson by doing this to him. After some time had passed, Henry eventually arrived at school and learned about Jianying's plan. He sets the students free and fights everyone Jianying has with the intention of preventing them from hurting the students in any way. They were able to get away, and they made their way to the testing area as quickly as they could while Henry fought Jianying. While they are engaged in single combat, Jianying divulges the information that he was the target of Henry's water balloon attacks when the latter was a young child. It has come to our attention that due to Henry's broken arm, he was unable to take part in a significant musical competition. because of what happened. He hasn't played the piano in years, and he holds Henry responsible for derailing his career. Henry makes another attempt to reason with him, but he is immediately attacked. They are having a hard time getting their hands on a knife. Henry is finally given the opportunity to kill him, but he decides against it. After making an apology for his actions when he was younger, he leaves with a request for forgiveness. The examination is finished successfully by the students as they have arrived at the testing facility on time. After a few weeks have passed, we find out that they have all passed with flying colors. Jianying is getting back into playing the piano, but he has a long way to go before he can reach the level of proficiency he once had. Bruce makes a speedy recovery and affirms that he will take the entrance exam the following year. The principal is ecstatic about the fact that the board has decided to award them with a 20% bonus fund. This is in recognition of the fact that their students performed exceptionally well on the entrance exam. Henry goes back to his job as a teacher and performs the fire sprinkle trick for another group of students.